You wouldn't fly a jet without checking the systems. You wouldn't lead a mission without prepping your gear. But most people, they wake up every day and they never check the most critical system of all, their nervous system. And this one, it doesn't cry out when it's failing. It whispers until one day it breaks. And the signal is called a heart rate variability, or your HRV. And that's the go signal of your body's readiness. And it's invisible until it's too late. We've been sold a lie, y'all. If you're tired, it's because you're weak. You gotta push harder. If you're struggling, it's your mindset. But what if it's not? What if your system is just overclocked and you've been trying to hustle your way through this physiological failure? You have elite HRV, and that equals faster decision making, better recovery, stable emotions. And then you have low HRV, and that equals burnout, brain fog, and breakdown. So the moment all of this hit me, this is actually newfound. In 2024, I was on fire externally. I was leading, mentoring, creating, and still crushing the mission. But inside, I couldn't focus. I felt fatigued no matter how much sleep I got. I was irritated all the time at the smallest things, and everything just felt heavy. I thought I was slipping. I thought I was getting old. I thought I was burning out. And then we had this team of doctors come and brief my squadron, and they weren't there for like fitness advice or any of that. They came with these machines and they came with this data, and they told us that these operators with elite HRV levels, they crush every metric that matters. Then they listed the symptoms of low HRV. They started telling us about brain fog. They started telling us about tiredness. They started telling us about you can't focus. And all these things they started saying, all of them started matching me. So they hooked me up to this machine, and I had a 23 millisecond of a HRV. And the doctor looked at me and said, "You're in chronic stress mode, bro. Like, your nervous system is cooked. You're not lazy. You're stuck in survival mode right now." So HRV is not a heart rate. It's a variation in milliseconds between your heartbeats. So you got high HRV, that equals like adaptability, readiness, and resilience. And the low HRV, you're stuck in flight or fight mode and you're unable to recover. So I want you to like envision Floyd Mayweather. I know a lot of people don't like him, but let's just envision him. No one can beat him because they couldn't time him. He was unpredictable, he was fluid, he was sharp. And that is a visualization of what HRV is. It's unpredictable. You can't time it. This is your nervous system's ability to adapt to stress and be able to recover fast. Some people, they're just born chill. You have some people that are just more chill than others, like athletes, extroverts, musicians. They tend to live in a rhythm that equals a higher HRV. But then you have people who are perfectionists. They kind of overthink all the time. They're always in their head. These people tend to have a lower HRV. But whatever you're born as, you can fix this. This is something that you can work on. But if you don't work on it and you ignore HRV long enough, it won't just cost you energy, it could potentially cost you everything. Low HRV is linked to a 2-time increased risk of heart attack, 3-time risk of stroke, and high rates of anxiety, burnout, and depression. You also get poor memory and concentration, and you can also have a weak immune system, so that causes frequent illnesses. You have slower muscle recovery and injury risk. This is all because of HRV. There's an app that I downloaded. It's free. I'm not trying to sell y'all anything. It's called Welltory, and it told me this. I synced up to Welltory. It told me that I have a 15% focus percentage, and it said that your brain isn't ready to do much of anything right now because your body is too exhausted to give you the fuel it needs. So it told me to avoid making important decisions because you could risk careless errors. Like, this app told me that. I was a little offended, but I was like, man, it was able to determine this because of my HRV, and it was right. My life was tracking with this data. I was pretty much a walking red flag. So I told myself, I'm not going to stay at 23 milliseconds anymore. So I got obsessed. I started studying the special warfare recovery playbook, all the HRV science that they do, the clinical trials. And I built a system that took me from 23 milliseconds to 52 milliseconds in 6 months. So the foundation layer, the thing that matters the most, is getting sleep and having sleep discipline. So you want to try to have 7 to 9 hours a night in the same time every night. You also want to be able to sleep in a cooler room. I know if you live in the dormitories, you can get a cooler room, unless you in some of them ghetto dormitories, but for the most part, you can have a cool room to sleep in. You also want to be able to have a pitch black room. You want to be able to get that room as dark as possible. You can either do this by wearing like a sleeping mask or getting like some blackout curtains. And you don't want to have any screen time like an hour before bed. I know there's been some scientific studies that said that this isn't true, but what's the harm in stopping screen time before bed? And then you want to have your nervous system reset breathing. And this is just learning breathing exercises. These are super important. You have box breathing or the 4-4-4-4 for 10 minutes. And basically what this is you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and then you do this for 10 minutes. And this can actively increase your HRV right there on the spot. And then you have coherent breathing, and all this is a different breathing exercise. You can YouTube these. They have some YouTube shorts that can break them down so you can understand how they work. But these are different breathing exercises that you can do right now to boost your HRV. And you want to do this every morning. You want to try to do this before you drink your coffee or get on your phone. This is just a routine that you want to put into your life. I'm a little sick right now. You know what? Matter of fact, my Welltory, the app, it told me that I was going to be sick based off of my HRV. It told me on Tuesday, hey, you're getting sick. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then on Thursday, I was sick. And it knew that by my HRV. It's crazy. This is all the free version, y'all. I'm not trying to sell y'all anything. And then you want to be able to get a way to track your HRV. You're going to need some type of tracker. What I use is an Apple Watch. My Apple Watch is able to do it. I think they even have Oura rings and even chest monitors. All kind of different ways to track it. I think like an Apple Watch or some type of smartwatch is one of the easiest ways. And then you want to have an app. There's a lot of different apps that can track it. But Welltory, for me, it not only does it track like the HRV, but it also gives me breakdowns. It tells me different things about it that I can use to process. And I love that from Welltory. And then you have some different performance things that you can do that can optimize it, like cold exposure. So at the end of your shower, do like 30 to 60 seconds of just cold shower. I hate cold showers, but that little 30 to 60 seconds of cold shower at the end of your shower, it can help boost your HRV. We already talked about breathing control, and then you can do zone 2 cardio. And all this is like brisk walking or light cycling. You're not really trying to get that heartbeat too high. You're doing like 20 to 30 minutes of this, something that you can hold a conversation. If you can hold a conversation, then you're at the right pace. You do 20 to 30 minutes of that type of cardio, and that's really good for your HRV. And then you want to do stress inoculation, and that's just 15 minutes of high intensity workouts. And you could follow that with some type of breathing recovery exercise as well. And then if you really want to start maximizing your HRV, you can start nutrition sync into it as well. So you can stop eating 3 hours before you sleep. You can start doing 12 to 16 hour intermittent fastings and try to limit your alcohol as much as possible, especially before bed. So after I learned this, y'all, after about 6 months, my HRV improved. Like I told you all, I didn't have any more like afternoon crashes. I had emotional regulation like a monk. My workouts finally started hitting good again. I was in deep sleep and my focus was restored. So the biggest gain that I got out of this was clarity, energy, and just peace overall. So if you've been running blind and you've been checking everything like your uniform, you've been checking your rifle, you've been checking your GPA, but you haven't been checking your nervous system, start today. I'm just trying to help y'all. That is all. That's it. I'm almost 40 years old, y'all, and I just feel like I'm learning some stuff. I'm learning some revolutionary tactics that I'm trying to give y'all. So just start thinking about your HRV. I just want y'all to learn this because I feel like it's pretty dangerous if you don't know how to observe or regulate your HRV. But you know what's more dangerous than your HRV? It's getting comfortable in the military. And I got a video on the screen right now breaking down why that is. But like I always say, I hope this video brought value to you. Stay beautiful, stay classy, and until next time, check me out.